In this video, I'm going to be using ratios and proportions to convert within the household and US imperial system. And I write up here to remember by start making a plan and write down the appropriate conversion factors. What I mean by making a plan is to think about whether or not you have a direct conversion between the two. And if you don't, you might need to do a multi-step ratio and proportion that will get you to your final answer. So if we look at the first problem, we need to convert 6 tablespoons into an equivalent amount of ounces. And you need to think about, well, first of all, we know ounces is given to us. Is this volume? So are we talking about liquid or, the amount contained in something? Or are we talking about weight? And we know that when we say ounces, this is actually talking about fluid ounces. And the reason why is because we're talking about tablespoons. And tablespoons gives us a measure of volume. So this is fluid or volume that we're talking about. And the reason I mention that is because students get confused when we're talking about ounces. Is this fluid ounces or is this ounces in terms of weight or mass? And in this case, it's volume. So, 6 tablespoons to ounces. Do you know the conversion between them? Do you know the equivalent amount of tablespoons to ounces? And you should. You should know that there are 2 tablespoons in 1 fluid ounce. Students tend to also memorize an equivalent ratio of 1 tablespoon equal to a half of an ounce. That's something else, but you'll notice that both of these are stating the same relationship. And you can use either one to make this conversion. So we know we have a direct relationship between these two. So I'm going to start by writing one of these, and I'll start with this one. 2 tablespoons per 1 ounce. And that is the ratio between these two quantities. I'm going to find an equivalent ratio where I'm talking about tablespoons to ounces, but I am looking for 6 tablespoons, and I want to know how many ounces that is. So now you can use any of the methods that we've learned so far. I see that the tablespoons are increasing by a factor of 3, a multiplicative factor of 3, which we know must happen with the value of ounces. So I have 1 times 3 is 3. So an equivalent number of ounces is 3 ounces. If you want to go back and check to see if 1 ounce equivalent to 1 tablespoon equivalent to a half of an ounce, if you start with that ratio, you'll also end up with the same solution. The next problem is pounds to ounces, 6 pounds to ounces. And here we're talking about weight. So here we're talking about mass or weight. We're not talking about volume. Do you know the relationship between pounds and ounces? You must know that. We know that 1 pound is equivalent to 16 ounces. So we know the direct relationship between pounds and ounces, so this will just take one conversion and that's it. So I'll start by writing the ratio that I know. I know the conversion factor, I know the ratio relating pounds and ounces. And I'm looking for not 1 pound, but 6 pounds. And I want to know what is the equivalent number of ounces this is. So now I'm going to use any of the methods that we've learned so far. Maybe I'll use the invariant property. I see from 1 pound to 16 ounces. The invariant property there is 16. That's the relationship linking pounds and ounces. That same relationship needs to happen over here. So 6 times 16, let me write that out. 6 times 16, you'll get 60 plus 36 is 96. So this is 96 ounces. Finally, we are asked to convert cups to teaspoons. And you need to ask yourself, do you know the relationship between cups and teaspoons? And if you don't, you might need to do a few problems to arrive at this final solution of teaspoons. So I don't. Off the top of my head, I don't. But I do know cups ounces. We just did, in the first problem, we know the relationship between ounces and tablespoons, so maybe I'll first convert to ounces, then I'll convert to tablespoons, and then I'll convert to teaspoons. So this is the process. I'm actually going to do 4 mini problems here in this one conversion. We're going to learn a method next week that's going to make this a little bit easier, but right now this is really the only way to go ahead with this problem, unless of course you know the number of teaspoons to cups. You can do that relationship, or maybe you know the number of tablespoons in a cup. You can start with that ratio. But first I'm going to convert the number of cups into ounces. I know that 1 cup is equivalent to 8 ounces, and we're talking about 2 cups here. I need to convert that into an equivalent number of ounces, not ox. I see that the numerator is increasing by a factor of 2, which must occur down here. So I see that cups, if I multiply 8 times 2, I get 16. This is an equivalent number of ounces. So 2 cups is 16 ounces. Now I just did this part here. So now I want to convert these ounces into tablespoons. Do you know the relationship between ounces and tablespoons? You should. We just did it up above. We know that 1 ounce is equivalent to 2 tablespoons, but we're talking about 16 ounces. So we need to know what is that equivalent number. I see that we are increasing here. The numerator to the denominator is increasing by a factor of 2. Same thing needs to occur here. So 1 times 2 is 2, obviously. 16 times 2 is 32. So I'm going to get 32, and my unit is tablespoons. So what have I done? I've converted cups into ounces, and then I converted that into an equivalent number of tablespoons. So there are 32 tablespoons in 2 cups. And now finally, we just did this part. We want to convert this into teaspoons. So do you know the relationship between tablespoons and teaspoons? You should. You should know that 1 tablespoon is equivalent to 3 teaspoons. So I'll start with that ratio. And I'm looking for 32 tablespoons. How many teaspoons is this? Obviously, it's really important to be careful if we're talking about an uppercase or lowercase t. I see that from tablespoons to teaspoons, I can just multiply by 3. So I'll do the same thing over here to the right-hand side. 32 times 3 is 96. So again, I got that 32 times 3, 96. So 96 teaspoons. There are 96 teaspoons in 2 cups. So notice what I did here, and this is what I hinted at the beginning. Make a plan. If you don't know the direct conversion between them, make a plan by saying, well, I know cups to ounces. Then I can do ounces to tablespoons, tablespoons to teaspoons. And then I can just do, I said 4 mini problems, but it's actually just 3 mini problems to arrive at the solution of 96 teaspoons.